by laying out too many options for people, they sometimes get confused and have a hard time making up their mind. Could we all agree with that?
Okay. I do that with menus. Too
With-
many choices. Can't make up my mind.
With menus?
Mhm.
See, and my wife is terrible. Now, when you talk about two types of people, this is a good example. There are two types of people in the world, using your example. People that sit down, scan the menu, and they're ready to order in less than 30 seconds. That's me. My wife has to read the entire menu front and back, pick two choices, and ask the waiter which one that she should order. Huh? Yeah. Which one, if you were choosing between these two, and the lady's going, well, one of them's Italian with no meat, and the other one's raw meat. Which do you want, raw meat or? So I guess in that example, I can understand that sometimes you get too many choices, as you say, but I'm not sure two types of people would be the phrase I would use. I'm looking for you guys to come up and help me with different kinds of phrases that you might pick from, or
Well, there's
help.
lots of choices and it can be overwhelming. So let's narrow down what's important to you.
Let's narrow down what's important to you. That's better than two types of people. Anybody else? Pam's looking.
Microphone, please.
Well, the examples he gave. I did like that one. So I'll get. So he says if you two types of people in the world, the little voice in their head immediately wonders which one they are. And in my head, I go, you're wrong. You're really wrong. But I like what Tulio said. There are two types of people in this world. There are those who read books like this and do nothing. And there are those that put what they read into practice.
Mhm.
Now that makes sense to me. That one I could buy into.
Yeah.
And
there's people that take action and there's people that don't.
after reading a book like this, that has they'll read through and they say, "Oh, that would be a good idea," but they never do anything about it. Such as Lynn came in this morning, for those of you who don't know, and she has her daily planner, her every day. You know, but when she gets out of bed in the morning, brush her teeth, make the bed, affirm herself, then she's got some calls to make and so on and so forth. And it's a daily checklist that she's learning from her new book. How many people would look at that and say, oh, that's a good idea, and I'll do some of that. I'll brush my teeth in the morning, but I don't need to check it off. Other examples that he did. I'm trying to read Cece back through the back of my head. There are two types of people in this world: those who know a good offer when they see it, and those who look back thinking of what could have been. Yeah, I don't like that one very much. That's kind of confrontational to me.
You need to move your camera just a hair that way.
Why, to see me?
Yeah,
You're
you're entertaining.
There are two types. Let's see. There are two types of people in the world: those who want to save money and those who value the experience of investing in a professional. Again, those sound a little confrontational to me. So, Miss Wordsmith,
Yes,
how would you put that last one?
you're stupid. No. Well, God, because I don't like that one. Instead of putting experience into investing in a professional, there are people who save for the short term, and there are people who are looking for long term, not necessarily in a professional or an investment, but they're saving to what could be. It's kind of like insurance. You don't need it today, but you'll probably need it tomorrow.
That's pretty wordy.
There you go.
Types of people in the world. One, that will pay full retail because.
You
they
need to go
sell
back.
on sale.
You can or can't hear.
Hand me my phone.
I did. Maybe that one's dead. Here, have another one.
I said there's two types of people in the world. There's those that will buy something on sale knowing they're going to need it. And the other type would be, I don't need it now, so I'll wait and have to pay full retail.
Or they're ones that are looking for a sale. I knew one gal that she wanted a specific car. She knew what she wanted. She knew what she would pay for it. And she waited and waited and waited and waited. And then she finally got it.
Well, there's that. I'm the type of person that I know at some point I'm going to need it. And so I buy it when it's on sale. My husband's the type of person that I don't need it yet, and he'll pay full retail when he needs it. So basically I'm saying there's smart people and there's dumb people.
Okay. Two types of people in the world, smart and dumb. Which are you?
Yeah, that's going to cause a slight issue. I don't know, but it's true.
See, I probably, if I was trying to talk someone into using me as a real estate agent as a professional, I don't know that this would be the term that I would open with.
Yeah.
And so maybe the fallacy of our arguments were we're limiting ourselves to this phrase when maybe we should move to a different phrase.
Yeah.
So
Because I bet you're a bit like me and want to move to the next chapter.
not yet.
All right.
Well, I was just thinking if I'm having a conversation with someone in regards to buying or selling a property, I'm probably going to say, hey, it's really good that you've reached out to someone who has knowledge of the regulations and the laws, you know, whether it's me that they choose as their agent or someone else, but I'm going to lead that conversation to be something about using an agent and why that's important. I'm not going to gear them towards maybe a for sale by owner type of situation. So I guess for me, I would just not even necessarily approach that with the, you know, there's two types of people deal.
Yeah, I don't like that phrase.
I would agree. And I would think if you're in a conversation with them, they may already recognize they would need a professional. But somebody could come up to you and say, I'm thinking about selling my home myself. To say, you know, you're at a dinner party. Somebody, oh, you're a real estate agent? I'm thinking about selling my home on my own for sale by owner so I can save some money. What's your response?
Pam just said, cheers.
I'm drinking, so I don't care.
A little humor always works.
Yeah. And that was very little humor. Boom. No, I'm kidding. So does anybody have I mean, that's a good opening, but what would you say next then?
How can I help?
How can I help you sell for sale by owner? So you wouldn't get in an argument with them.
No. Based on what I'm learning right now, it's better to help them because there's so many things you can do to help them that would actually put the leads in your pocket so that you could actually benefit from whether you sell that specific house, you could benefit from the leads it could generate.
See, I guess I would go to almost any of these. I would go read the room. So if I walked up to Lynn, so you're a real estate agent. I'm thinking about selling my house myself. What do you think? Now, what did I just tell her? Come on, argue with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that's when you could go back to a later chapter and say, well, I'm sure you've got experience with this, and I'm sure you have experience with that, and use those and have them tell you what experience they have, which will be zero, usually.
And that's true. And that's one of the reasons I think I would approach it with how can I help? Because by the time I give them the information to sell their house and the legals and all, you know, the marketing and everything like that, there, it's, I don't remember the statistic. I believe it's 80% or thereabouts for sale by owners list with a realtor.
They do.
So if that's the case, and I'm trying to help them sell by themselves and they do list, who they're going to list with.
Hopefully you.
Right. I mean, but if you're right, it's a numbers game. So no, not every one of them is going to, but
Right.
yeah.
You know, I guess if somebody was approaching me, my probably, and with that kind of, to me, I might start with something, you know, selling your house by yourself isn't that hard. It's managing the sale after you have a contract that gets difficult. So,
But it's also the time that you have to be available to show the house, and you have to worry about your idea of how valuable your landscaping is compared to.
oh, there's a lot. I
You know,
agree.
So
I'm sure you're going to enjoy your phone blowing up of people wanting to see it.
And whatever I was doing there, I would say, you know, we're sitting in Pam's cocktail party. Probably not the time to discuss this.
Right.
Can,
However,
can we make an appointment, or can I talk to you, give you a call tomorrow, and let's get a little more in detail?
you think about it though, how disarming is it if somebody walks up to you and says, I want to sell my house myself, and you go, how can I help? I mean,
yeah, I mean, the fight's over.
yeah.
I don't disagree. Okay. Next chapter.
I was just gonna say, my response to that is, well, good luck. Let me know if you need some help down the road. And leave it at that.
It depends on how you say good luck. Good luck. I'll bet you're nothing like Tracy. You're more like me. And we're moving to the next chapter. Which is, I'll bet you're a bit like me.
See, and I'm not thrilled with that phrase.
I like the concept. I don't know I like the phrase.
I'm with you on that. You know, you can say, well, if you want to put yourself in that, instead of saying, I bet you're a bit like me, well, here's what I went through at this same juncture, or here's my experience with this very similar proposition or whatever it is. But to say you're a bit like me, I'd be going, yeah, probably not.
So I think saying something like, if I were in your shoes, here's what I'd be looking at. I mean, that's.
Mhm.
Back to them.
Yeah. A wise one, tell us what you think.
Well, and who's the wise one?
You got it.
Cece, are you the wise one?
Yes. Yeah, I don't like that phrase. I bet you're a bit like me. That's like the most awkward loser phrase that would possibly come out of my mouth. But I am very comfortable sharing my feelings. This is, so I would do that anyway. Share how an experience made me feel. Share what my experience was like with my other clients, and that I do that very often to help, not only help people like name their own feelings, which sometimes people have difficulty like putting words to their own feelings and emotions and experiences. So I think having saying like how I felt in certain situations would help them to engage with that and realize what they were feeling. But I would never say, I bet you're a bit like me.
So let's understand the psychology of what they're trying to get to. When you are in sales, and this is more traditional sales, but we can all agree on this like that. I think you can agree. You move people along to the first yes, to get them to their second yes, to get them to the third yes. So if you can get somebody to agree with you on the first one, I think that's the psychology of, I think you're a bit like me. Or could we agree that selling a home is a stressful time? It really stresses me out. Well, and then you could get somebody to respond to that, or say, I have helped so many people sell homes. They tell me that's the most stressful thing in their life. What do you think? Well, yeah, it is stressful because very few people are going to say, oh, no, it's a piece of cake. I go away to Europe and hire somebody to come do it all for me. No, most people don't have that money. But I like what they're trying to do, which is, I bet you're a bit like me, is getting to that first yes agreement, something that you both see the same on, so that you can move on to the second yes. Any other thoughts on that, Cece?
You could go down that rabbit hole.
For me, I think people have an innate wanting to be kind of grouped in as normal for a lot of things. So instead of saying, like, trying to have them compare themselves to me specifically, I would maybe more normalize it and be like, a lot of people, or oftentimes people, find that selling a home can be really stressful, and that using an agent that knows the regulations and the rules to keep everything on track takes a lot of that stress away. And so it's not necessarily saying they're like me specifically, but it's more saying they're kind of like everybody else. Like, this is a general feeling of what a lot of people find to be a stressor.
Nice.
Pretty good. I do like his last example. I bet you're a bit like me. When I'm selling something, I want to get the best possible price with the least amount of stress. Now, that's something that a lot of people could relate to. Maybe you don't like the way he said it, but I like the end statement.
By saying that, though, I bet you're a bit like me. You want to get the most money with the least amount of stress. Isn't that kind of like making a connection there? Something that's relatable that both of you agree on by saying it that way?
Is that bad?
No, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that is making a connection. And I like this one. I bet you're a bit like me. You're always juggling to get everything done, and you love it when somebody can help you. As a real estate agent, it feels like from the very 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, I'm running. And if I can get Dylan's to come deliver food for me, it's worth it to me, because I can make the order, stay out of the aisles, and be done in 15 minutes, and it comes to my house. Is stuff like that worth it to you? We're a service society. People love to be served. Can you afford to
That
be
gives
served?
me anxiety.
What, shopping, or me saying that?
Having someone else shop for my groceries. I'll do Instacart and shop for other people, but I gotta shop for myself.
Well,
That's why I think sometimes some of the statements in the book are kind of frustrating.
well, and fair enough. Now, for me, I much prefer it when they bring the groceries out to the car and I don't have to walk for the aisle. But here's the thing. I think you just hit on something that's very, that underlines all of this. You have to be absolutely genuine and authentic. If you're making a statement just to get a sale, you're wrong. You need to make a statement that is really honestly you. And for you, Erica, saying I want somebody else to do my shopping for me ain't going to get it.
Exactly.
Yep, I agree.
So another way to put this would be, if you're anything like me, rather than I'll bet you're like me, because that puts me off. But if you said, if you're anything like me, I'd rather buy it on sale now rather than wait 3 months when I really need it and pay full price.
I like what you just said. Anything like me. Now you're drawing them into being, doing it together instead of, Tracy and I have an ongoing dollar bet, which I'm behind on right
He
now.
is. I'm ahead.
First time she's been ahead in months.
We've been even for months.
What's the bet?
It varies.
But it's usually technical, like, yeah, you want to bet that I know where to get to on the website? Yeah, I'll bet that.
All right. I'll bet you're
Then I
wrong.
win $1, then
Right.
I lose $1.
Yeah. He's been behind most of the time, by the way. Just FYI.
So this next statement for me if then. Now, I didn't read some of the psychology because one of my favorite classes when I was in college was logic. And logic uses a whole lot of if then statements. That's, the first part of the sentence has to relate to the second part. And is there a then and
Well,
there?
there's the hypothesis.
Yeah, that. So, and then I read about this and I thought about, I liked what he said. When you're a kid, how often did your mom say, if your room's dirty, you're grounded? If you stay out too late, you ain't going out again. Those are if then statements. Now, those are somewhat negative if then statements, but they are very ingrained in us as we're growing up. And they can also be ingrained to us to be positive if then statements.
Give us one.
A positive one?
Yeah. Without reading the book.
Okay. I already read the book. If we price your house properly, then it should sell very quickly.
I like that one.
If your house is clean and tidy and staged, then it will sell faster than if it's dirty and not. And you'll get more money on top of it. Those are if then statements that aren't negative. They are, if you're willing to do this, then we can probably get here. If you're willing to drop everything and go look at houses in this market, then you get to see them first and you have a better chance of buying that home. If then, if you're not willing to do that, that's okay with me, but understand you will probably miss out on some because the market's moving that fast.
Nice. Well done. Paraphrasing.
I do so many things instinctively that I just don't understand the names like paraphrase. My wife and I were playing a game last night and it said, these are adverbs. And I said, what's an adverb? I have no clue. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I forget it all the time.
We're not here for a grammar lesson.
We're not here for grammar. But I think if then statements are very powerful. And I like the way for me to remember them. If then are sandwiches. You're building a sandwich, top piece of bread, the meat, the bun, then the bottom piece of the sandwich. Any thoughts online about that? Tammy, you've been unusually quiet. Do you use if then statements ever? Did we lose Tammy?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
No, I wouldn't say that I do a lot.
If then-
Maybe, maybe occasionally, but I can't really think of anything that I don't know, it's been a while since I've sold a house too, so I'm having a hard time remembering.
My gosh.
It reminds me of the feel, felt, found.
Okay. Explain that.
Years ago, if somebody would make an objection or a statement, you could come back with, I understand how you feel. I've had other clients that have felt the same way. And what they found is it's not as bad as you think.
Okay.
If then feel, felt, found.
Very much like that. I used to have to argue with builders all the time because builders would say, why would anybody want their house to have blank? I designed this house perfectly. It shouldn't be changed. I don't know why anybody. And so I had to use this with builders because you can use this kind of stuff on anybody. So my story about this, because I like stories to demonstrate what I'm talking about, is when Davis Moore was on Kellogg and Grant Davis was there, he wanted a private office. So he built a private office with a secret door to get into it. He had a fountain with plants in there. It was huge. Red shag carpet on the floor and the walls and the ceiling.
Oh my.
He had a private bathroom with a bathtub. Why I would go to work to take a bath, I don't know. And inside this, he had pool balls for the on-off knobs for the bathtub. So like a 9 ball or something else. And I said, he was willing to pay an extraordinary amount of money for that. If people want to pay you to build it, and don't argue with them, just build it. They got the money. So if they want it and they got the money, then build it. And that would work. And that's when selling new homes, it's always a serious compromise, like when you guys are out looking for homes. If you're willing to pay for it, then we can build it. If you're willing to pay for it, we can add the extra 2 feet across the back. If you're willing to pay for it, then we can make the basement finished. If you're willing to pay for it, you can have a 6-car garage. If you're willing to pay for it, so then it's an if-then statement we used all the time. Right, Cici? Shake your head, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Cici. Nobody else has their camera on, just you, by the way. You know, Erica's got a talking head, but nothing, and Tammy's is off altogether. Is there anybody else that has anything they'd like to say about those if-then statements, or are they good with them?
I'm good with them. I just feel like, like anything, you want to use them in moderation and use them when it makes sense, not just, you can tell sometimes when people are reading from a script and you're like, come on, put some like personalization into it. So I guess for me, it's just, if it makes sense to say it that way, then, and it comes across as personal, then it's fine. But don't just sit there and throw them in and say, okay, now's when I'm supposed to use an if-then statement.
I think one that I've learned recently that this would, a situation where this would fit is, if you're willing to sit with me for an hour before we look at homes, then it will save us time, immense time on the back end, and we will find the home you want faster.
Will there be snacks?
Childcare in Tracy's office.
Oh, God. So I'll say this in response to Erica. I fully agree. And one of the reasons I like this book is, instead of being a whole bunch of a long script that just goes from line to line to line to line to line, these are a bunch of phrases that you have to pick and choose the right situation for. In argument with Erica, you have to practice using these phrases so you don't lose them. It would be real easy to forget what chapter 1 was. And you can also say there are phrases that are favorites of you, and then think about how you use them. And so the reason we're discussing these in class like this and spending 15 minutes on 4 words, what situations would we find this phrase useful in? There's a lot of places I would not see if then as a useful phrase. You should give me an example.
I don't like the if then.
You don't like the if then.
I
So it's
don't.
never going to be a good one for you.
No, not for me personally. If it works for somebody else, rock on. But for me, the only thing that comes to mind are negative phrases. There's always a consequence, and
See, I don't see it as a consequence. I see it more as more of an action that comes from a decision. And that action could be positive or it could be negative.
well,
depending-
that's still the consequence.
If you bought a house 5 years ago, then it would cost less than it does now. If you buy a house 5 years from now, it'll be more than it is now. Is that really a negative thing, or is that more of a discussion? You had something to say, Pam?
No, I was gonna say the same thing. Consequence could be positive. I mean, you could always have a positive consequence, right?
Right.
So.
You can. For me personally, I can't see ever using this.
So what would you use? I mean, would you ever have, do you ever think
No.
about if then statement? I don't think about it.
I guess I don't phrase it in the same form as if and then. Somebody says, it's, I don't know, super windy out there and it's terrible. And I would say, well, then you better make sure you got a hold of your car door so it doesn't grab it. That's not
That's
an
an
if
if
then,
If
but
it's
I'm not-
very
but I'm
windy
not-
out, I better hang on to my car.
right,
door.
but I'm not verbalizing the if. I'm just
Ah.
verbalizing the then. I only
Just different
verbalize,
way of phrasing it.
right, I just verbalize the then. If that makes sense.
Well, I'm an overthinker, so if I sit here and think about it and try to think of how I'm gonna say it, then I'm in trouble.
Have a cocktail.
Cheers.
See, as basic as if it's cold outside, then you need to wear a coat to your children. I mean,
Well, and let's go different. Let's say if you're going outside, then you need to wear a coat. That's an if then that has no negative. But I think we each have to, as we said previously, you have to find what works for you.
Right,
There's enough
exactly.
here that does that. Tulio, you're quiet today. Okay,
Would it help if we moved on to chapter 19?
it might.
He's gonna throw something at
You
me
know,
sooner or
there's
later.
plus and minuses of having a ex-radio person here, isn't there? It's
Hey, someone's got to bring the smart ass into the group.
I do like this one because I do want to be helpful.
Mhm.
And I think people like to be helped. Would it help if? And I think that is a phrase that any of us could use at any time. In Tracy's, if she didn't want to go, if it's windy outside, then you need to hang on to the car door. She could say, would it help if I held the car door for you? Well, yes, I got my arms full of this stuff and I'm
Right.
okay, thank you. So there you go. In a moment in which they accept your offer, that frees up any friction that may have existed and was holding them back from choosing you. So I would always rather offer to help somebody, as you say, how can I help when I'm confronted with the for sale by owner? How can I help? Would it help if I dropped a sign off for you? Would it help if I did a CMA and we went over numbers together? Would it help if I showed you, if I had kind of a checklist of what happens after you have a contract?
Mhm.
Okay, all of those are very good statements to me. And especially if somebody, I like what he says here, it can make a radical difference in someone stuck in a maybe. I'm thinking about selling my home by myself. Would it help if I dropped off kind of a checklist of what happens after contract? Now, what I've just displayed to them is what it takes to manage this sell after. And yeah, I'm going to fill it with every line I've got that I can think of that could possibly go wrong.
got a list of 250 things.
And then I think, if I'm at work all day building widgets for Cessna, do I have time to handle all the phone calls it takes for me to do that? Well, no, let's discuss a few of these things and now we can open up a discussion. Now, if they don't choose to use me and they want to make those phone calls, building their widgets from Cessna, I'm going to walk away and still be happy. I helped somebody, I did it all right, and I'm not going to resent that I'm not going to carry that resentment that they chose not to work with me. Right?
Right.
Because we're genuine and authentic. Would it help if you could speak to some of my past clients? How many people would use that?
I would use it.
I would use it only after I've gotten permission from a past client to give their information.
Could be a given.
No shit.
Do you know when I'm trying to recruit somebody, I offer them a list of all the people in the company and phone numbers so they can call them and ask them what they think of working here? Yeah. To other
Just on bathroom
agents.
walls.
Other
Stall.
other agents already have your phone number.
you know, in the MLS, they don't always put their phone number, you know, you have to go dig for it.
And you'll notice that people in our company always do. Gosh, remarkable.
It's because we're better.
Um, I don't have any problem with if you would help statements. I think they're remarkable. I'd like to hear how a couple of you guys, you know, some examples of how you've used would it help besides the for sale by owner. You've already used that one. You got to come up with a new one now.
Well, this is off real estate per se,
Okay.
but how many times have I come into your office and you're doing 9,000 things and I go, how can I help?
Yeah, no, it drives me nuts. She interrupts what I'm doing. No.
Right. And then he's got to start all over again. It takes longer. But no, it's still the concept. Ultimately, we do like to be helpful.
And we like to be helped,
Mhm.
both.
Right, like, would it help if I provide you with a list of the utility companies?
Oh, excellent.
No, that's a good one.
Julio, how do you help people? Pick up a mic.
How to help people. First of all, I help people to explain everything about the real estate because a lot of people, the people doesn't know about real estate. What is the process? This
Very
is the
good.
first thing to help people.
And one of the things that you help with every day that you should have said first is, would it help if I translated some of this for you? Because some of your clients don't speak hardly any English at all.
Yeah.
And to take the complicated real estate terms that we have and try to, they wouldn't use that at
Yeah,
all.
a lot of people when they call me, they call me because they prefer work with somebody speak Spanish to understand well about the process.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's a big benefit for you.
Yeah.
I wish I spoke 2 languages. All the time, I wish that. Pam?
Baby Julia would like to teach us Spanish.
That's it. We'll have Spanish Thursdays for a while.
It'll be the Spanish word of the day.
Hey, Julia, I'll hire you as a translator when I need it, or I'm going to refer them to.
I like this one too. Would it help if I introduced you to a trusted local lender who's familiar with the area? Why would you want to introduce him to a local lender?
Mr. Cooper says.
Pick up the microphone.
That's it, because Mr. Cooper says.
That's right. Because you're going to meet people who, just like they search for houses online, search for lenders online, and they think they found a good deal, but that's because they don't know the hidden feeds, the bottom line, or what the norms are for the area. That's a very important one to me. I thought that was a great one. Anybody else want to talk about would it help if?
I have, sometimes, you know, you deal with clients that are maybe a little more difficult than others, or that their expectations are, they want one thing, but their expectation is something else, I guess. So there's been times that I've had to tell somebody, you know, would it be helpful if I showed you, you know, they're complaining about, hey, we're just not seeing the houses come up that we're looking for in our price range. Well, would it be helpful to show you what houses that meet all your criteria are selling for, so you can determine if you need to adjust your price range or you need to adjust your reality on what you're going to get for the price you want to pay? That has been helpful, because it was kind of that, like, look, this is what you want, and this is what the numbers show that these types of houses are selling for. So sometimes we want to do everything we can to please the customer, but as agents, I know it gets frustrating when there's not a lot coming up that meet your client's needs. And so you have to have that come to Jesus meeting with them and say, look, this is exactly what we're seeing. You know, now that we've been at this for a while, this is, you know, let's revisit this. So sometimes I think being able to say, you know, would it help if I put together some new numbers that do show what houses have sold for since we've started this process, and kind of go from there?
I think that's really awesome, which is one of the reasons I like to have people come into the office first, is so we can go over the market and what they're looking for to make them understand what their price range brings. So I think it's a great way to say, would it help if we met at the office to go over the market real quick before we go look at houses?
One of the terms that I use long time in my career, and especially because of new homes, is just a single word: compromise. I can find the exact house you want if you're willing to compromise on the area that you want to find it in. For instance, if you want oceanfront property, you're not going to find that in Wichita, Kansas. We'll have to compromise on where your home's going to be. I can find the kind of house that you want to afford, but I can't find it here. We'll have to move out by Garden City someplace, or Dodge City. So those are extremes, obviously, but what are you going to compromise on? Here is your budget, and we can't get a house as big as you wanted within that. So do we compromise by extending your budget, or do we compromise on the size of house? And so when I'm laying out those options, I'm doing the same thing as saying, it's going to be your choice, but what you want doesn't exist in the area or the price or that you told me you wanted. So where are we going to extend at? The price, the size, the location?
I showed a house the other day, and when I came up behind the car, it had a new dealer tag on it. And I was like, oh my God, he just went out and bought a car.
He could work at a dealer. You don't know that.
Well, it wasn't dealer tag. It was a new tag.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah.
60-day tag. Yeah.
60-day
gotcha.
tag. So I kind of, asked him some questions, and his price range is fairly low. And I said, if you find that you're not finding what you're looking for in this price range, it might be an option for you to put that car in somebody else's name so you can get approved for a little bit more. True. Lenders tell them to do that all the time.
I'd rather the lender told them. But
why? Explain.
Because in effect, what you're doing is borderline bank fraud. I have a car in my name and I intend to pay for it, but for now I'm going to put it in my son's name, and then I'll take it back over as soon as I buy a house. And it's kind of like, really? Do I want to tell somebody to do that? Probably not out loud. Maybe not on a recording of a Zoom. Anyway, okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to add right now? I swear Pam takes all these notes over there. I'm very impressed. Yeah. It's okay.
Lynn's doing it too. She's got her book out.
Oh, I know she does. That's right. Ray's got his notepad. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording. Yes.